Hi and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Sheila Bett. So this is my very first video speaking directly to the camera, and I thought a first introduction, it would be ideal for me to start with this topic. So I just celebrated my birthday last week on Friday, you know, the best way you can during this quarantine season, and it got me thinking, and I thought I'd share with you guys some of the lessons I learned in my 20s now that I feel that I'm fully planted in my 30s. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about my age. If you want to know the details, you can go to my Instagram, although I don't think that's important or relevant to this discussion. The point is I'm in my 30s now, and I've learned so many lessons through my 20s, which I thought would be, you know, really useful for some other people who are just getting into or just like sliding into their 20s and deep within their 20s and, you know, asking lots of questions. Anyway, I'm one of those few people, well, not few people, I've come to realize I'm not the only one, but lots of people had these ideas of what their 20s would be like, especially if you were like making plans as a teenager. You thought, I, for example, had my bucket list, lots of things that I wanted to achieve when I was an adult were at the age of 27. I have no idea why I picked that particular number, but I wrote a bucket list when I was in high school where I said, I want to have done this and I want to have done that, and some of the major things that I remember planning to have achieved by the time I was 27 was to have bought a home of my own. Let's just take a moment to acknowledge that I am sure some 27-year-old people have done it, but it's really atypical to have someone having bought a house by the age of 21. So I had that, and I remember at 27, or just before I turned 27, I started to realize that, oh my gosh, I wasn't really doing all the things that I thought I would have done by then. I had hardly checked off even a quarter of the list that I made for myself. And of course I had to learn to be kinder. Anyway, the point is, there was so many lessons to be learned, and I thought I'd share some of them. I might have another episode where I talk about these lessons, but I'm going to have just a few that I'll bring together that cover a wide range of things. So, oh my goodness, one of my biggest lessons, I was one of those people who would have tried a lot of things, or I thought about trying a lot of things, but I didn't try most of them because I overthought everything. I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's not the right fit, maybe not, maybe it's not cool, or all that kind of stuff. So I would say go for it. Anything that you think of, dream of doing, go for it. Like, there's no better time than when it comes to your mind. You'd rather be the kind of person who tried everything. If you have any dreams or any ideas that you feel inclined to follow, please chase them in your 20s. Go for it, make those mistakes, stumble, fall, get back up, keep trying, because that's when you have the freedom and the time to do so much more than you do as you grow older. As you grow older, most people, you know, start to have more responsibilities, more things that they need to put their attention to. Sometimes you have less time because either you're working a full-time job and it's very demanding, and by the time you're done with work, you want to go home and rest and not think about anything and not produce anything. If you're one of those people who have that extra energy at the end of the day, because ideally, yes, you should be able to try something as you're earning money at the same time. But if you have the chance and the freedom to pursue your dreams, go for it in your 20s. There's this quote by Mark Twain that I think is one of the best things I read. It's funny that it starts with, 20 years from now, you will be disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the things you did. So 20s are really the time that you should be able to try all the things that you've ever wanted to try, within reason, of course. So if you have a dream that you feel so passionately about, go for it in your 20s. If you have it in your 20s, if you have them later, that's also fine, but if you have it in your 20s, absolutely go for it then, because you hardly get so many opportunities for these kind of things. You don't have the kind of freedom that you have in your 20s, as little responsibilities as you have in your 20s. So I would say absolutely go for it in your 20s, try all the things. Go for those competitions, if it's a singing competition, if it's the just whatever it is that you feel, ooh, I could try my hand at this, absolutely do it. Do it then, be bold. So another thing that I learned post 20s, and it's a little bit embarrassing to admit this, but I learned in retrospect that in my 20s, I should have absolutely trusted my gut more. So I would say, if you're still in your 20s, even if you're already in your 30s, one of my biggest lessons was trust your gut. Like simple things, like some of the things that you hear people say a lot. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. When you have a weird hunch that something is off, that something is, and it's not necessarily just for the bad things, it's for the things that seem off, or the people who seem off, or when you really strongly feel like something is worth your time and effort. Believe that, trust in that. It'll take you so much further, so much faster. Otherwise you would be just like running, it's like you're running on an escalator that's going down, but you're trying to go up. So you'll take so much time going the wrong way, or just timing on the same spot instead of moving forward. But if you really trust your gut, yeah, I think it just takes you much further, much faster. So absolutely trust your gut. That's one of my biggest lessons that I try to remind myself over and over as often as I can. My third lesson would be, it's okay to be wrong. So you might have grown up believing certain things or thinking that you know certain things. There's something that I noticed when I was in my 20s, later in my 20s. I've always been someone who really enjoys debate and having discussions about all kinds of things, and just talking to people who have strong opinions about different things. And I realized that when I was in high school, there's someone who actually described me. We used to have this thing where we would write biographies, like autobiographies. We called it a biography book. So towards the end of high school, everyone would have like a nice, pretty notebook, and they would have everybody sign off and basically write the things that you remember or liked about them. And this girl wrote, I actually remember who exactly did it, but there's a girl who wrote that I'm very argumentative. And I guess there's a negative connotation to what she said, because it would come off as if I just argue for argument's sake. But what I did come to learn as I was growing older, and as I was basically being in spaces where people were open to debate, people loved to discuss different things, I learned that I actually really enjoy debates, and I enjoy picking people's minds and finding out how does this person think, and why do they think this way, and why do they make certain decisions, and just what informs who they are. And over time, as I was having debates with different people who had different opinions, quite varying opinions actually, and sometimes these opinions were very different from mine, but they were so good at articulating their ideas to a point where I could respect that they made sense, that what they were saying made sense, and that even if I didn't agree with what they said, that it was just as right as what I thought. So at the same time, I also learned sometimes to move my boundaries, or I have like this line of, oh, this is what I think, and then I learn, oh, actually that's not the right way, that's not the best way to look at this thing, and I would be able to adjust and move further and say, okay, I see it, I didn't see this before, I didn't think of this before, but now I see it and it makes sense to me. So yeah, I would think, especially now that we have so many ongoing debates online, and there's a lot of times when you'll find that you have opposing ideas to other people, I think it's really healthy to always surround yourself with people, with people who are similar to you, because that's nice to be able to share values and ideas and things like that. But it's also really, really necessary to be around people who think differently from you, who don't agree with your opinions. And when you learn to be around people, and I hate to use the word tolerant, because I don't really think tolerating seems a little less accepting. It's more like, okay, yeah, that's what you think, but that's your business, I don't really care. I think it's really about being open to other people's take on things. So it's really, really useful because it expands your worldview, and it makes you able to be around people who are not like you, which I think is a very necessary life skill. You have to be able to be okay in spaces where people are different from you, people believe in different things from you, or don't believe in the same things that you believe in, don't think the way that you think, don't agree with some of your most fundamental ideas and principles and values. And as long as it's not opposing to a point where it obstructs your life, then it's completely harmless. At the most, it's really useful to just make you a better human being. So I would say be open to learning something new, be open to being corrected, also be able to differentiate between when someone is trying to constructively help you to see things better, to do better, to be better, and when it's criticism that isn't constructive. And so that'll be the fourth thing that I'll say. Sometimes when you're doing things, when you're opening yourself up to hear other people's opinions, sometimes people will come with their own ideas, which might not necessarily gel with yours. And I think it's important for you to decide, this is who I am, this is what I care about, and even though I accept that other people could be different from me, to just stand your ground, to stand for what you believe in, whatever that is. And when someone is trying to make you be something other than who you truly are, when you feel like listening to them and taking what they say to heart would take away from who you are as a person, your authenticity, then absolutely be willing to say, I see where you're coming from, but I don't agree with you, and this is not how I want to do things. And absolutely believe in it and keep going with it. So yeah, that's a fourth lesson that I would say is absolutely stand your ground. When you truly deeply believe in something and you think when someone gives their opinion that it's against your essence, it's absolutely okay to reject it. Be graceful if you can in the rejection. So this one is another big lesson that I learned in my 20s, and I continue to learn actually because the learning never stops, right? So it's okay to make mistakes. You will make mistakes in your 20s. Going for what you believe in, going for your dreams, chasing, all these cool ideas that you get. Sometimes it won't work out. And sometimes you will think that you know, and you'll make decisions that later you'll look back and think, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? I could have done better than that. But don't beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself. It's absolutely okay to make mistakes. So that's a big lesson that I've learned much more in my 30s because I think I've had a bit of time to reflect and look back on the decisions and the choices that I made, and sometimes I'd be like, ugh. Or like how Jackie used to say, I was literally just thinking about this the other day, and I was like, Jackie on Sister Sister had a certain that is really specific to a certain mood. Like it's a very specific reaction, which I don't think has been captured in the emoji. It's like a mix between just ew and oh no, anyway. I'm going on and on, but my point is that it's absolutely okay to make mistakes. That's what youth is for, right? Youth is for trying things, and sometimes they'll be right and sometimes they won't, and it's all good. As long as you learn from them, then you give value to those mistakes. You have to learn from your mistakes. Sometimes it's the first time around. Sometimes you make the mistakes 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. And there's this thing about it hitting a bit harder the next time, and the next time. And at some point, it's like you're just spun all the way around. But yeah, mistakes are okay as long as you learn from them. So that's a big, big lesson that I learned in my 20s, and I'm continuing to learn in my 30s. one of the major lessons, and this is going to be the last one that I share on this video. I think I might actually come back again and share more lessons that I've learned now that I'm in my 30s, that I learned in my 20s, or that I've learned coming into my 30s. And that is, it's such a big deal who you surround yourself with. Try to be very deliberate about who you spend time with. Let it be people who make you feel good about yourself, and not by just hyping you for the sake of it, and not by lying to you or telling you what they think you want to hear, but friends who will be honest with you, friends who will help you grow, and who will be happy when you're growing and when you're doing well, and people who are going to be consistent in your life. You want a positive influence in your life. It can either be people that you admire for what they do, for who they are, maybe they are what you wish you could be for yourself, and being around them will bring you closer and closer to that dream, to being that person that you want to be. But also you want to be around people who are here for your growth, who are here for your success, who are happy when good things are happening in your life, even if the same things aren't happening in theirs. Here's the thing. Someone can be good for you at one point, and then they can stop being good for you. And when that happens, it's absolutely okay to let people go. So that's one of the biggest lessons I learned in my 20s. As I was coming towards my 30s, I let go of quite a few friends. Actually, I never had fallouts with friends before. Say when I was in high school, up to the point when I was in high school, until I was in college. That's the only time I had like fallouts where I was close to someone, we were really good friends, and then we weren't anymore because we just didn't share the same ideas of what kind of life we wanted to live. We didn't agree on some very fundamental things. But I learned in my 20s that when you feel like a friendship or a relationship is a lot of work and it's taking from you and it's draining you, don't stay in it, leave. The only thing you're doing by staying in there, by being friends with people who are not good for you, who don't make you feel good about yourself, is just prolonging this learning process, this learning curve. Let it be people who make you feel good and who you're happy for and who are happy for you, and give as much as you're taking. Don't give more, don't give less. Sometimes you might give more, and if you're switching back and forth, if this other person is giving more sometimes and you're giving more sometimes, then it's balanced. But when you feel that it's not a balanced relationship and it's not healthy, get out of it. Whether it's a friendship, whether it's a romantic relationship, when you trust your gut, as I mentioned earlier, and you know that it's not worth your time and effort, absolutely, it's okay to drop friends, to drop people from your life, and yeah, find your happiness, find your joy. Yeah. So that's all I'm going to share today for the lessons that I learned in my 20s. Like I said, I might be back with more lessons. I might make a similar video because I didn't go too much in depth. I thought I'd just like glaze over lightly in this episode. And yeah, I hope you've got to learn a little bit more about me. Please do share, write in the comment section. If you're in your 30s, share some of the lessons that I haven't mentioned in this video about the things that you learned in your 20s. If you're in your 20s, even write about the things that you're trying to work through and some of the lessons that you've learned so far in your 20s. I'd love to hear from you. Please subscribe to this channel, like, share, and all that jazz. Alright, until next time, ciao ciao.